You know, nothing is coincidental. And I'm not even calculated, but nothing is coincidental. There is so much synchronicity in this universe. I can't even freaking wrap my head around it. And there's been a lot of like coincidences in my world when I discover something through feeling the pain of release, and the environment is so aggressive. And then these awarenesses, revelations, or that sounds so biblical, but the aha moments seem to happen when there's so much energy in the universe. And so genius, when you think about geniuses, they have so much antigen antibody programming causing so many chemical reactions that they make connections faster because they have the energy in their brain and they have body and they're eating food and they've been programmed through specific venues like studying things. And so when there's so much energy in your environment and there's so much energy in your body and you're feeling the pain, you're not squelching it, you'll make connections faster. In a slower frequency environment, if you were blood type A and B and you had so much that antigen antibody programming in your blood, causing those chemical reactions, causing that kinetic activity, that back and forth like a war, that energy is then influencing your brain to make connections faster. That's why there's geniuses out there. That's why there's certain people who can make connections faster because of their blood types and because of the industries and the child rearing they grew up with. And so it doesn't escape me that during this Labor Day weekend, I got my book yesterday, okay? The call is called Prairie Fire, and I've been hearing about Weather Underground and been listening to the right-wing people talk about and resist the Marxist, Leninist type of movement manifesto, though this was very, very, very violent. It was very anti-government. And then January 6th emulated that. And I did watch a few YouTube videos where they were talking about, hey, Weather Underground members like Bernadette Dorn and Bill Ayers, they were interviewed by somebody like from CBS and saying, do you notice any kind of pattern here that January 6th was like what you guys were doing, embedding yourself within commerce and influence government buildings and doing those types of guerrilla warfare tactics. And they're like, yeah, well, people were dying in the war. We had to do that. And so I'm just trying to wrap my mind around all of this and trying to figure out now from the point of view of where we are today and what we have been warning people about. I've been warning people about what I learned 12 years ago when I was on the truck with my husband and I was listening to so many YouTube videos. And I'm like, I'm gonna get off of Facebook. Oh my God, this is fucking crazy. And I'm messaging everybody on my friends list, which is probably like maybe 200 people at the time, going like, oh my God, something's going on, something's happening, da, da, da. And I sound like a crazy person. I even, message people that I used to know in junior high because I never went to high school with them. And they're probably going like, yeah, okay, whatever. And there were so many different weather things going on, but people were already conditioned to deal with inclement weather. And so now from this point of view, going back to the last 12 years and then the last 7 years and the last 3 years and then now and then the last couple weeks, now I'm in a very different headspace. And when I'm reading my parents' world's point of view when it comes to Prairie Fire and the politics of revolutionary anti-imperialism, a political statement of the Weather Underground, now I'm going to look at how they evolved into literally, they said, yeah, they embedded, and I'll read something out of this. They said they embedded themselves within certain government centers and are trying to blow up like ideas and also physically blow up things from within. But then you can't do that. Once the war was over, then the war had to be over as far as physically here. Then it became an intellectual war. So that's where the Weather Underground finally siphoned themselves or fused themselves into the academic programs. because it wasn't a physical war anymore. It was an intellectual war. And so then they made getting a degree in any college then something to covet, something to revere, and then also slip in there are certain political ideologies, which as I'm reading them and reading about them, they're not bad ideologies, but how do we go about changing people? And I'll go into that later. But and so then I'm thinking about Lyndon Johnson and JFK and RFK and then Alex Jones, and then the assassination of RFK and JFK, and I'm thinking like shit, and then the Weather Underground, and then people's perceptions of the Weather Underground. When you read the reviews, and people are under the impression, from what I've seen, that the Weather Underground was advocating the assassination of RFK. I don't know if that's true or not, but then I remember what Alex Jones was talking about in his videos about the conspiracy world, and then him focusing on JFK. And when JFK was talking in a speech about there are people who were making plans to do something, he didn't really go into too much detail, but he alluded, JFK during one of his speeches alluded to that there is a secret societies and secret this and secret that. They're going to do this, 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 and this. And I guess he was allowed to say it. Somebody wrote his speech. It wasn't like he came out of this. No, he wrote a speech that leaked out stuff purposely, because they know it would be used later. That someone will go through the archives and go and repeat that speech. And so anyway, so Alex Jones focused on that. And of course, his background is uncovering what the plans were and what people were resisting. And so when you think about the Vietnam War, that was part of the New World Order's intention. Lyndon Johnson didn't just act on his own, just out of no. Presidents are not dictators. They have a cabinet of people. There's an intention, okay? Presidents are not dictators. So the act of war of going into Vietnam was for a reason, because they weren't ready to, they knew there's going to be communists at some point. They knew there's going to be one world at some point, but they weren't ready to actually roll out those plans yet. And so that's why they went into Vietnam. That's my guess. I mean, I can only speculate. I wasn't there. But, and then the Weather Underground was resisting what was going on. They wanted anti-imperialism. They wanted anti-racism. They wanted women to have rights and sexuality and all that shit. But they were radicalized and thought it was America. And America is just part of the British Empire. I mean, when she finally get over the July 4th, 1776, we're just another colony of the British Empire. I already knew that a long time ago, but how do you tell that to people who are so entrenched in tradition and holidays? So then the New World Order, the Weather Underground, was rebelling against some aspect of the New World Order. And then so was the officials, the FBI and all the police and all that. And everyone was so radicalized. And a bunch of children, students, the Days of Rage, these students have been radicalized because of the amount of casualties and people going over there to die, and they shouldn't, fighting somebody else's war. And they wanted to go, Vietnam wanted to be like China. They had to bring things together. And then that's why I know, that's why my mom and my sister went to China in the 80s. I was probably in some institution at that time, so I wasn't around that time. And so when I went into college over there in San Francisco, I went to China and went with a student that I was help tutoring, getting through, I think it was anthropology class. And so I was helping, we were doing study classes or study sessions, going for coffee and just studying for the tests. And I would help them because they were English was second language. And I think Ivy was then set to go to UCLA afterwards. And I didn't have any plans to go anywhere. I just go into college. So anyway, so I went to China, and experienced China in 2003. And almost ended up in a Chinese jail because I forgot to bring my bags off the truck through customs. And they're like, why'd you leave your bag there? And then I was talking to some, I think it was Uyghurs, and they were actually detained at the border. And they questioned me, why didn't you bring your bag? And they looked at my bag, and it's just dirty clothes and cheap Chinese goods. I'm like, I just didn't. I didn't have my translator with me. Ivy wasn't with me. And so the Chinese official was like, okay. He looked at my eyes and everything. I'm like, I'm just some dumb American. So anyway, so I was released, and brought the bag over into Hong Kong so I can go on my plane to go then get out. So anyways, that was my little tiny little story about my I don't know, dealings with the Chinese government, almost landing in jail. And I'm glad no one put any drugs in there. I'm so glad no one put drugs in my bag. If that would have happened, I would have been in jail. Oh my God. So anyways, so China became communist with the Cultural Revolution. Vietnam wanted to do that too. The South Vietnam did not want to come together. They were resisting. That's why there's a war. And then America took then the Vietnamese that were rebelling, that were going to end up dead if they didn't conform or go through the re-education camps. And they brought them here, the boat people, refugees, and all the orphans and all that stuff. And so that's why here I am today. And now we are in a great reset because the world is trying. See, the thing is with anti-imperialism, when the British Empire wants everyone to come together and everyone under the same religion, the same culture. When you think about it, you can still have your cultures per se, but you're going to have to practice it online. You can try to practice it, the antiquated way out there in the bushes, but when you're under 9 feet of water and storms and heat and starvation, now you're going to have to conform. I remember rebelling as a kid, resisting stuff, and if I broke any rules or lied about something, then I was punished, and I was put in my room, or TV was taken away, and she had to hold the line. She could not go back on her word and say, well, okay, you don't have to, stay in your room, or you don't have to be punished. You have to be punished. And so that's the thing, is when it comes to being serious about behavior modification and discipline, the New World Order is doing the same thing my parents have done to make sure I faced the repercussions of my actions. This is the rule. This is what happens when you break the rule. And now I'm going to hold you accountable for breaking that rule. And so that's kind of what's going on right now. We've been told this is what's going to happen. We're going into climate change. We've been told so many things, and we've seen so many things in the conspiracy world. We know there's going to be future maps of the world, and there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to survive. And you got to be somewhere where it's relatively safe. And on top of trying to release your demons and protect your family, holy shit, okay? And so the system is now trying to eradicate some of these very, intolerant cultures. And so what does the system deem as intolerant? Well, they deem creationists as intolerant, because then with creationism comes dying. So you're degrading and you're falling apart. And on the way out, you are rebelling against any change because you can't handle change, even though they instilled it in you. But you're rebelling as you're getting older and more crotchety and not very evolutionary and even more intolerant, maybe even racist. And then you're reproducing children who think the same way. So creationism is dying, reproducing the same clones of people who don't evolve, who don't change. And but that was bred into you. That was bred into you through the Weather Underground when they're going into academics and the sciences and engineering. And so, oh my God, so then why is it our fault? Well, that's the thing, evolution. This is what was accepted for a certain amount of time, creationism. Now it's time to evolve. Can you go from creationism to evolution? So creationism is making something into nothing eventually. But as you are going into nothing, will you take so many people down with you? And will you also destroy society on your way out the door? And so basically it's dying and reproducing clones and conflicts. Now, evolution is developing something out of something, not into nothing. But what are you developing? I mean, they could kind of be the same thing, but not really. It just depends on what are you teaching your offspring. What kind of tolerance or intolerance are you teaching your offspring? And so there's no such thing as nothing, because everything is something, but what is the something you are developing? And will it disintegrate? And so through the last 7 years in the J world, me going through this fucking evolutionary process that was so painful, and it was a battle. You saw me battle the fucking world with me getting my thoughts out, with me trying to get across that I'm not the fucking enemy here. And then not realizing I'm up against a system that was developed to destroy people through the family, the friends, the medical, holistic, the energy healing world, the religions, the politics, and science worlds. And here I am saving myself, realizing what is the actual enemy. And it's not your government when you think about it. They're just trying to figure out how to control the population. It's people who can't take in new information. It's people who can't realize, or it's the people who don't want to sit down for a minute and study something and intend to understand another point of view. You can't force that on people. Okay? And so when I realized, as I was peeling back the layers and layers and layers and layers of programming, that even though, the government back in the 1960s, and even before that, I mean, where did herbs and extracts and surgeries come from? Way back in Imhotep's 2600 BC. And then that keeps carrying over to generation to culture. It's not even just, Imhotep. They did their stuff back in the Egyptian days, but then also the Incas and the Aztecs and the, Northern Europeans, Western Europe, all into the herbs and the extracts and the remedies and the surgeries. And so then who do you blame? You really can't. There's no specific person to blame. Then it's just evolution. Because then you just be blaming your neighbor, your husband, your wife, who believes in that, because that's what they were taught for generations. It's been embedded in the culture for fucking centuries, thousands of fucking years. How do you fight against thousands of years? Well, you can't fight. You have to now intending to become fucking intellectually smart and intending to understand fucking everything. Okay? It's not creationism anymore. Now it's fucking evolution. And the last 7 fucking years has been an evolution that I had to battle in myself to learn how to talk about it and learn how to defend myself intellectually and not throw back the same grenades people were throwing back at me. But I had to go through my own fucking battle. And you saw me do it online. I survived it. But it was fucking hell. But I had a foundation instilled in me that I was being held accountable for whatever ramifications. If you do this, then this will happen. Deal with whatever happens. And then find a way to strategize your survival in it. And also, if you really are believing in what you believe, then you will keep developing the evidence, even if people don't fucking believe it. But where is the evidence? Then we have a platform called academia and compiling information. And they have all the concepts and the rules and the laws. And then they also have their spin on how they want you to deal with stuff. But then you have to find a strategy. I had to find a strategy how to say, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but remember, we're not working from the same intention and the same outcome. So here's my argument based in physics and science and social constructs. And here's your intention. And we can coexist, but my argument is just as valid as yours, and it's not antibiotic, and it's not harming anyone, and I'm not trying to force convert anyone. And here I am. Here's the evidence. I've saved myself, and here's my book. I have a book that I wrote, and this is where I'm coming from. And I've answered to the government. I've answered to everybody. I've answered to the fucking bullies. I answered to my own husband. I've answered to all of his friends. And now you all have to figure it out. Okay? And now we're in a great reset, and there are storms coming, and now you can't resist. I mean, you can try to resist. That's fine. Resist. But it's completely pointless. It's so out of your fucking hands. It's so out of your hands. And so they were warning you with that picture of all these men that are underwater. And it's a it's not a statue, but it's a statue of people that shows what climate change is to the Europeans. And so they're telling you, they're going to change the weather, they're going to change everything, reconfigure land masses, geoengineering. So much is going on. And they're telling you, even in the Forbes magazine, where is going to be the places where people are going to be relatively safe if they can handle even the tornadoes and the floods. And so then now you have to start releasing all the baggage. Why? Because when you have so much baggage, when you have so many friends and family and children and animals and things that you take care of that you're collecting, farm animals, whatever, are you going to die with your family and friends and farm animals? Or are you going to find a way to shed all of that, try to teach them how to be independent, but it's going to be every man for himself, every woman for himself, every animal for themselves. And sometimes it's between you and your child and your dog, and you only have one hand because you'll need it to swim and hold on to stuff. And you need to hold your child or your dog. Who are you going to fucking choose, your child or the dog? Someone's got to go. That's where it's coming down to. And, proverbially, allegorically, metaphorically, when you're in the rushing water and you have one hand and one hand, two hands, one hand to hold on to your child and dog, and another hand to hold on to the roots going down the river, someone's got to be sacrificed. That's what's going on right now. And so who's going to be sacrificed in your world? Or are you all going to go down with the ship together? And that's some pretty fucking grim choices, but that's the reality. Oh my God. And so, just like true to the form of the Rosicrucians and the Illuminati Freemason, they're showing you, okay, there is a GeoMap, viewer of the latest fires detected in the world. View maps online with digital cartography. And so they're showing you a lot of places are under wildfires. And you can speculate where they come from, climate change, climate change is different for everybody. But it's not a coincidence that they all seem to be raging at the same time. Okay. But now you see what's going on. Places in Africa, a lot of places in Africa are under fire. Wildfires, even in South America, Mexico, parts of the U.S., a lot of parts of Canada. And when you have in California, have a lot of wildfires, then you have root systems and trees and bushes are all, burned up, and then you have so much mud, and you have bring in the rain, and then you have the mudslides, and there's Tartaria, there's the mud floods, okay? And also barren land, you can't live on that, and then you are going into human habitation zones, smart cities. We are in a major redevelopment, and it's been planned for fucking years. There is no resistance in this. You can't resist it, because when you have a big hurricane coming right now from the east going to west, and it's going to hit Florida again or somewhere on the eastern seaboard, what's there to resist? Now you have to figure out how to strategize your survival, or what? Sit in raging, rising waters? I mean, come on. You got to play this smart. Listen to indicators. Okay? And so it's a 90% chance of developing that hurricane going towards those islands. And so I was going through Amazon and looking at the reviews of Prairie Fire, and I purchased it on August 31st. So, right, this is Proletariat Day, Marxist Day, Labor Day. This is not the bougie day, okay? So that is why Alex Jones was focused on JFK and Bobby Kennedy. JFK and Kennedy, both Democrats. And you see how Alex Jones, who's a Republican, is defending and even thrusting out there JFK. That was the first thing that I noticed when I listened to Alex Jones way back in 2011. He was totally promoting JFK. So that is why Alex Jones was focused on JFK and Bobby Kennedy. JFK and Kennedy, both Democrats, got wind of the plan and started exposing, but the New World Order, comprising of both Bushes and Obama, Clinton, potentially silenced high-level resistance. But even though JFK did leak out that there are secret societies and all that. Hey, Audrey, nice to see you. Even though JFK did leak out there are secret societies, he didn't say a lot. He didn't say too much. He just said there are secret societies. Most likely, that's probably what did him in. I mean, you could say the mafia did, or Marilyn Monroe people did, but, he probably got wind of really the bigger plans, and he was just like, holy shit, not realizing he was used as a puppet. And so certain Democrats and Republicans work for the agenda developing right now. It's called the New World Order, all right? Prairie Fire, which is this communist manifesto, all right? This is what Alex Jones is completely resisting right now. Sorry, honey, you're playing with them. You are part of promoting them. Resisting them is promoting them. Now you have to assimilate. You can't resist. You have to figure out how to assimilate. And so Prairie Fire was also resisting the NWO. Both sides. I know. Hi, nice to see you too. You're early today. Yeah, because I was up at 4 this morning. I was itching so bad somewhere and I had to release the demons, and I did, and no more itching. I'm like, oh my God. But it was pretty aggressive yesterday, Audrey. Even my armpit was a little bit leaking, so I knew that there was frequencies going on. But I feel great. I released my demons. So anyway, so both sides were resisting the plans. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Certain Democrats and Republicans work for the agenda developing right now. Prairie Fire was also resisting the New World Order. Both sides, Repubs and Dems, all generations were gaslighted and radicalized by the British Empire. People's assumptions that Prairie Fire was endorsing the destruction of JFK and RFK. No, both sides were resisting the plans. They didn't realize they actually worked for the same team. But when you resist, it will persist. When you don't resist, it will still persist. So then what's left to do? It's assimilate. Understand their strategy. Understand your strategy for survival. The J world is just one strategy of survival, but that's not the only thing. Now you have to figure out, where do you live? Are you going to be in an area where it's going to be inundated by floods, storms, FEMA, okay? And even if you are in an area that does that, then listen to government, because they're going to fucking save you in areas that are so prone to destruction. And if you're all about resisting everything, you're not going to fucking survive. You can't resist now. Now is not the time to resist. Now you have to strategize, and you're going to have to listen to government, especially when the weather is their baby, not yours. You're not controlling the weather. They are. And they're letting you know this. I know that, Ron. I know it's Hegelian. Ron, let's just keep it chill, please. I understand what's going on. I'm trying to tell you guys how to fucking survive this if you choose to. But I know it's the Hegelian dialectic. I understand all of that. But I'm trying to now give you guys a clue on how to fucking survive this. And resistance is not going to be the answer. Unless you plan to die. Okay? Unless you plan to die, resistance is not the answer. Now you have to figure out how to promote the existence. And that means saving yourself. You can't save anyone else out there. You can put out there all the different strategies that they have used to get you to do whatever or not do. But at the end of the day, who's going to fucking live? You or your neighbor? You or whoever it is that you're trying to convert? You or the government? The government's always going to live. The government will always fucking live. So what are you going to do to save yourself? That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm promoting. So I appreciate your contribution. I'm trying not to get too distracted, okay? But I believe me, I'm right there with you. I've been doing this for the last 12 fucking years. Now the rubber is meeting the road. I'm telling you. And now, how do you survive this? How do you survive this? I'm trying to give clues. It doesn't mean that people are going to understand this or even be able to survive this. But some of you that are strong enough, even if you haven't done the J world, are strong enough to withstand or figure out how to pick up and go move somewhere, or you have enough money to go move somewhere like, let's say, Ohio, out of Florida, and then you can do the whole J world shit and watch the world fucking burn. Some of you have absolutely no way of leaving Florida, and there's absolutely no way you're going to survive this. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But some people have the money and the means and the wherewithal to survive this and strategize where they could potentially be the best place to live while you're releasing demons so you can live through this. Because it's not just the J world as far as releasing demons and conquering all the different diseases and living and eating all food, even if it has cricket powder in it. Now it's fair. Are you living in a place where you can get out of harm's way? And when the government is telling you, okay, another hurricane, get out from the coast, come to this FEMA camp, we're giving you MREs, and then we're going to relocate you into these condos. Now you got to figure out who you are, what's your contribution. Are you retired? Are you on Section 8? Are you a drug addict? And they might be putting you in areas based upon what they think you're about and what you put on your Facebook. And so then you got to figure out, okay, who are they targeting? The useless eaters, the major resistors. Okay, now you have to start questioning who the fuck you are and what are you contributing to this society. Because one day there could be a fire in your smart city, and that smart city is full of what? Drug addicts. Full of what? People who are resisting. Full of what? People who see. Then you see what the system wants. They want to get rid of those who are resisting, those who are useless eaters, those who have nothing to contribute, those who just don't have it all there. And that's kind of how shit goes. Okay? It's kind of scary. But that's how they're going to use Mother Nature. So you have to think like them. If you don't think like them, you'll end up somewhere like, oh, okay, I'm in a condo and it's everyone around you is a drug addict or who has nothing to contribute, and they're all rabble rousers and they're all resistors, and oh my God, there's a fire. One direct energy weapon, done. That's what you have to now face. What are you going to do? Assimilate or resist? That's why I get what's going on. And when I watched that show on Netflix, when the Boston bombing, and you hear about the whole Boston bombing thing, you know, the Alex Jones side of it, and that kid who can't speak, and you have a feeling, I had a feeling he was set up, and you see this kid going to death row and he can't speak. He's already been implicated. When you're doing crisis acting and you're looking the part, and there's video evidence of you crisis acting, they don't know that you've been told to crisis act. That's how shit gets set up. Then you realize the power of the people that you're resisting. You can't fucking resist anymore. And so my heart sank when I saw that show on Netflix. I'm like, oh my God, I know who I'm dealing with. I know who I'm dealing with. You don't want to resist them. You don't want to resist them. You don't. Now you have to strategize. It's fucking scary out there. You have to strategize. I mean, they might be forgiving. This might be forgiving you resisting in the beginning because that's what you're bred to do. But then when you realize how powerful they are, you don't want to fucking resist. You don't. So wildfires, barren land, no trees, loose soil, lots of rain, heavy mudslides. Then there's this whole Project Bluebeam, you know, with aliens saying, okay, this and that. I'm not going to, there can be loud sounds and weird stuff in the sky and maybe explosions. Do your best to survive whatever's coming down the line. Just do your best. I can't even promise you I'm going to survive. But I'm going to give myself something, which is basically, I don't know. I'm just processing this information. And so when someone asks in the chemtrails world, what ways do you recommend to boost your energy naturally? Asking for a friend, I'm like, eat all food. Eat all food. No, Ron, no. Can you please not contribute anymore? Your off-grid communities will be DEW'd. Do you know what direct energy weapons are? Do you know what fires and floods and FEMA are? Do you know what Burning Man went through, Ron? Please do not contribute anymore. You don't get it. You don't fucking get it. You don't get it. If you don't get it by now, you're going to think you being out there hanging out in the sticks in your little off-grid community is going to fucking save you. No, sorry. Fires, floods, FEMA, famine, pestilence. You don't get it. You don't fucking get it. So please do not contribute anymore. You don't understand where I'm coming from. This is not the resistance. I'm not resisting the smart cities. I'm not resisting anything. Because then you're going to put all your friends, so all of you people who are resisting the smart cities, you're all go out there in the fucking wilderness in your little RVs playing off-grid shit. And all of a sudden, there's a big old storm. And guess what? A DEW. Completely incinerating all of you. You really want that to happen? Is that your intention? No, you don't get it. You don't fucking get it. A flood comes through and completely washes away your whole off-grid community. So I'm saying those who are in resistance, they don't get it. So in what ways do you recommend to boost your energy naturally? Asking for a friend. Use all food. Eat all food. When you get a reaction from that food, that's how you're boosting your immune system naturally. Okay? And then you release the demons. And you deal with the pain. When I posted a picture of some kind of hive, and they're like, oh yeah, put zinc on it or put something. I'm like, no, I'm not pushing the demon back in my body. Oh, okay, then use a holistic remedy. I'm like, no, I'm not using anything to push the demons back in my body. I'm releasing the demons. I'm not in the habit of pushing them back in the body. Okay? So there's so many layers of survival. The J world is just one layer. But again, you have to go and figure out what you're dealing with out there. And do you realize the government they have infrared. See, I'm going back to what Ron was saying. Oh, we'll go into our little off-grid. Okay, infrared. Do you realize Black Ops? People don't know what they're dealing with. They do not know what they're dealing with. When you know what you're dealing with, now you realize, now you're fucking smart. You realize what the hell's going on. There's no way to win in resistance. There's no fucking way. There's no way. I posted FEMA trailers. And then September 23rd, okay, look at that date, please. And October 4th, there's some kind of like global worldwide alarm going off. And so then there is 90% invest 95. Next name is Lee. Why are you sending me a friend request, Ron? What? I'm not trying to be mean to people, okay? I want you to get this. And I'm not trying to be mean. Okay, but you guys got to realize there's some shit going on. What is the deal? Oh, hold on. Well, let me see. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I know I'm like... Give me 1 second. But yeah, we're in some crazy times and people think resisting is the only way. No, it's not. And I will get into that in a minute. Oh, okay. Oh. Did he block me? I guess he did. I don't know, that's weird. Give me 1 second.